Hey guys, Runner41 here, and today I'm back with another Gravity Falls video. Now today's video is going to be continuity of A Tale of Two Stands, and Gravity Falls, as you may or may not know, is a show that has so much continuity in it. Like, so much continuity. Like, I have a very, very long list that I will put in the description. Yeah. And I'm going to be reading it off my phone, so, because I can't just remember all of this. Okay, the first thing was, in the very beginning when it shows, Stanford and Stanley as little kids, you can see graffiti on the cave, or on the wood outside the cave, that says Blendin was here. Now, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I don't know why Blendin would be there, why he would time travel back, maybe spying on the Pines family or something, but... So, yeah. And then Stanford, older Stanford, back in the present, when he's talking to Stanley, Grunkle Stan, he says, "What have you been doing down here all these years, you knucklehead?" And later on we hear Philbrick, or their father, say, "You did what, you knucklehead?" So that's probably where Stanford got that from. He probably heard Philbrick say it a lot, so he started saying it too. And now, just basically going by the scene, by when it shows the outside of Pines Ponds, there is hot Belgian waffles, the store to the left of it, and that is a reference to, in Not What He Seems, Grunkle Stan drops toxic waste on his foot, and he says, "Ah, hot Belgian waffles. Oh wait, I'm alone. I can swear for real." And then to the right is Knuckles Sandwiches, and that's supposed to just represent, because Knuckles Sandwich, if you don't know, that's an old slang term for, uppercut. And it's just supposed to represent the neighborhood they lived in wasn't exactly, a friendly one. And then the Pitt Cola truck drives by, that just Pitt Cola, you see it everywhere. There's also a giant pawn, like chess pawn. That is a reference, most likely, to Little Dipper when Dipper makes the pawn grow huge. And then there's actually an eye also in the window for where it says phone psychic. Now, this may or may not be a reference to Bill Cipher. Oh, just dropped something. Because in the Mystery Shack, there's the windows that are shaped like triangles, and they have the eye. So Bill Cipher, so that may or may not be a reference to that. And then there's also the fact that Philbrick Pines, their father, says no refunds. And that might be where Stanley gets his, no refunds from. They also added that their mom is a pathological liar. That's most likely just in there as an explanation for why Stanley lies a lot. I mean, besides the fact that he's just trying to get his brother back, but he does lie a lot. And then there's a UFO hanging from the ceiling in Ford's room. And all the drawings he was drawing, he drew a pine tree, which most likely represents the Pines family. He drew a UFO, like the UFO that was supposed to be in the unaired pilot of Gravity Falls, as well as the UFO on the title card, and the UFO that probably crashed through the cliffs. And then he drew a six-fingered hand, which obviously is just his hand, and then it's also probably supposed to be representing, the journals. He also draws Bigfoot, who is in the intro for one frame, and the Loch Ness Monster, which could possibly be the gobblewonker, but it's probably just the Loch Ness Monster. Then also you see the mask that Grunkle Stan wears. That's actually the first time we see him in the series. He's wearing that mask. It's laying on his bed. Then there's also Sixer, which is the code word for the code breaking? I don't know. The keyword for the code breaking you have to do to get the ciphers. Now, when Grunkle Stan is a little kid, he has a bandage on his chin, which old man mcgucket had on his beard, which I thought was interesting. And also the Stan of War, the boat, was also in Legend of the Gobblewonker. If you didn't know, that was what Grunkle Stan's boat was called. And the bullies that were harassing the Stan twins were the same bullies from Dreamscapers that were harassing little Grunkle Stan. And then when they're looking out at the ocean, you see a sailboat, and that sailboat actually showed up on Blendin Blandin in Blendin's game, which I think is pretty cool. And the picture, when it's showing the montage of like Ford's trophies and his medals and stuff, there's a picture to the left of what I can only assume is like some distant relative, like maybe their grandmother or something, but that picture is also in Ford's room in Carpet Diem, which I thought was pretty cool. Then there's also Footbot, who, if you don't recognize that was Stanley's project in the science fair, and he was in Bottomless Pit. Footbot, his trusty sidekick when Grunkle Stan was telling the story. And then you also can notice that Grunkle Stan is eating toffee peanuts, which they have mentioned before is his favorite food. And then also, one thing I thought was really cool was the principal had a gold medallion, like Grunkle Stan, the guy from the carnival, and I forget who else. Somebody else had it too. And something I noticed, this isn't continuity, but I noticed they switch sides on the swing set. Like when you're looking at it at the end of Not What He Seems, Stanley is on the right when we're looking at their back. Stanley's on the right and Stanford's on the left. But then in A Tale of Two Stans, you're looking at them. We're looking at their front, and Stanley's on the right and Stanford's on the left. So that means they switch sides, which I thought was weird. We also see the origin of El Diablo, the Stanley Mobile, Stan's car. And something else I noticed, I have a picture for this. The world famous sign, which is on the outside of the Mystery Shack, and here's that picture. And then there's also the 8-legged cow from Mabel's scrapbook, I think it was. And when they were looking at the map of anomalies on Stanford's, not Stanley's, you could see Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons, the game on the right, which is obviously Dungeons and Dragons parody, but there's an episode later in the season that's supposed to air in August, I think, called Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons. So that's pretty cool. And also, the car that Stanford is driving is the same car from the Stan Pine's Dead newspaper clipping. And if you didn't notice this, when Stanford was building the Mystery Shack, it said Northwest Realty, which I thought was pretty cool. And also, Manly Dan was the lumberjack who's cutting down the trees and stuff. Now, something else I found interesting was when you see that big wooden hand grab the car and pull it back, that is the tree monster that we see in promo art, and one that possibly left a big footprint. Now, here's a picture of that. And then we also have the eye bats in a jar that look a lot like the eyeballs in a jar from the intro. Then, of course, there's a shapeshifter, the UFO cliffs, Shmepulock Sr. And in Ford's room, there's a lot of stuff. There's the amulet Gideon had, the gobblewonker, some crystals which might be the size-altering ones from Little Dipper. Little Dipper? A big footprint from the intro that might be from the tree monster. The mermaid, like skeleton from the intro. The UFO from the intro. A big mushroom that was most likely grown using size-altering crystals. And the gnome and the cat carrier. And in the mcgucket scene, there's mcgucket's prototype laptop, which we do see in Into the Bunker and episodes after that. And then mcgucket playing the banjo, which is good continuity, because he plays the banjo when he's old and crazy in The Lamb Before Swine. Then, of course, there's the apple reference, which I did a video to that, link in the description. It's a strawberry with a bite taken out of it that says, ponder alternately, which is a reference to Think Different. Apple. And then, of course, there's Get Out with Tyler's mom. Then, of course, there's mcgucket, who leaves the same message that he left in Society of the Blind Eye, where reversed and decoded it says Bill Cipher triangle. Then he says, when gravity falls and earth becomes sky, fear the beast with just one eye. And then when you're looking at Stan Lee, there's the stand back in his house, which I thought was pretty cool. That was from a flashback as well. something else, a reference to Alex Hirsch's birthday, June 18th. The address of the Mystery Shack is 618 Gopher Road. If you didn't notice this is pretty cool too. The triangle window on the top of the Mystery Shack is boarded up, which maybe Bill Cipher, he boarded it up because Bill Cipher comes with the triangles. He was also most likely checking Stan's eyes when he shines the flashlight in it. He was most likely checking for the elongated pupils like what Dipper had when Bill possessed him. And there's also in the background there's a secret button underneath one of the panels, like in Dreamscapers, when Gideon says he won the lottery and Stan thinks it's the tax collector. He's trying to push the buttons. He's like, which one of these is the trap door? Well, we figured out which one's the trap door. And there's also the T-Rex skull and the fish tank, which you do see in the background a lot. Actually, when Stanford still owns the Mystery Shack, you can see a Royal Order of the Holy Mackerel banner, which is interesting. Then there's more crystals in the background, the size-altering ones. We get the origin of Stan's tattoo, which is actually a burn mark. And then when Stan goes into Stanford's room, you see Experiment 78, the carpet that switches your minds. We get to see the Dusk to Dawn, Ma and Pa, and the teenagers that killed Ma and Pa. And then character-wise, we get to see Lazy Susan, Pizza Guy, Sheriff Gloves, who we find out his first name is Daryl, the guy with the labeled body, and Toby Determined, and someone who looks like Robbie. It might be his dad, I don't know. And then we also get to see the mermaid skeleton again. We get the origin of Lazy Susan's lazy eye. The cash register says 618. And when Stan's standing in front of the mirror, there's 3 different pictures. There's one of him when he first gets there with the fez on, and in the background there's the Stan Pine's Dead headline. There's a new tourist attraction headline, and then when he changes to the next one, there's a headline that says Murder Hut changes to Mystery Shack, and then there's Stan books on the wall, and there's a picture of Stanley and Stanford when they're little kids. And then there's also a picture that says Employee of the Month with Grunkle Stan. And then in the next one, it's replaced by a picture of Seuss that says Employee of the Year. The Magic 8-Ball cane is against the wall. There's a You're a Star sticker that Mabel gave to Grunkle Stan. There's a picture of Dipper and Mabel from Legend of the Gobblewonker with the Dippy and Mabel hats. The Snadger when Stanford in the present comes out and he's telling the agents to go away. He has the papers and it says the Snadger with the snake and badger. And then, last but not least, when Dipper and Mabel are laying down to go to bed and they're talking about how they might end up like the original Mystery Twins, you can see the paper hat that Mabel folded in Irrational Treasure with the house on the top, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, that is all the continuity that I found in A Tale of Two Stans, and I just thought that was interesting. Sorry this video was very long. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys later.